and welcome back to this episode of the Health One podcast. I have one of my besties, Saz Collopy. Hello, Saz.
Hey.
It's a bit more of an enthusiastic hello there.
I thought I was enthusiastic. If you see the video, I'm smiling.
Hey, I want to go, hello. How are you?
Hey, how are you guys? It's been so long. I'm so excited to be here.
Saz, I was actually on Saz's podcast before, so the roles are reversed today. You're in the hot seat. Not that it's really a hot seat, but you know what I mean. But yeah, Saz, I'm gonna ask you the question that we all hate answering. Tell me about yourself. Tell me who you are, what you do, how you got to where you are today, and then we'll maybe even dig into how we even met.
That's a bit of a long intro for me, for me to be like,
bite size. Take a baby step.
Okay. Take little bullet points. Okay, I'm Sarah Collopy. I am an online coach. I work with women for fat loss and also improving their relationship with food. So I am one of the few that believe that it can both be done simultaneously. Obviously, there's elements to it that you need to look at a little bit more in depth. But yeah, so I'm 29. I live at home in my mom's house. It's fucking shit.
You can't have your own house. Your own section.
Yeah, that's a whole other story that we won't get into today. But as you can tell, that's at the forefront of my mind right now. But yeah, that's what I do. That's how I'm here. I started training when I was about 16, and I did all of the fad diets that you could possibly think of, so I could try them out, so you don't have to. Basically, that's it. That's me in a nutshell.
That's such a slogan kind of thing. I've done everything, so you don't have to.
I think I might put it in my bio or something.
The one that, like, I've obviously done a lot of fad diets myself. I've even did the worst one I did, I think, was the Beyonce one, where she like did this juice cleanse, and it was like fucking apple cider vinegar, lemons squeezed into a pepper, cayenne pepper. Like,
I've heard of that one.
And
I actually never tried that one.
Did you know?
Tried that one. Have you heard of the latest one? What's it called? An internal shower. I'm surprised you haven't heard of this one. It's like all the rage on.
I don't actually listen to this shite anymore. Don't pay. Yeah. I'm gone. In one ear and out the other. Don't have enough brain space for that.
So I think it's just like water, and I always say this word wrong. Chia seeds. And apparently it's like loads of those, so that basically you just shit your guts out for the day.
No, internal shower.
Now this is meant to be done, I'm doing inverted commas here, but for health. Not for fat loss. I couldn't tell you the benefits other than shitting all day long. I can't tell you any benefit of that.
I feel like a lot of my clients and a lot of my listeners on the podcast are very woke. I feel like they understand that this kind of stuff is a load of bullshit. But just in case for anyone that's new to listen to the podcast or new to me and Saz's world, where we promote against all of this stuff and promote like good relationship with food and stuff. The reason this stuff is really, really harmful is because you shouldn't ever need to restrict food. You shouldn't ever need to, in a way that is depriving yourself. You shouldn't ever need to go on a cleanse of any sort. Like, your body is able to do that for you when you are supporting your health optimally. Any sort of fad diet is just you chasing some sort of unmet need that you're like, okay, this is going to be the one. This is going to be the one that saves me. This is going to be the one that cures me. And even like you said, it's not from a fat loss point of view or a dieting point of view. It's from a health point of view. So they're the ones I think that get people the most, because like I myself have tried all of those things. I actually remember when I first started the health one, I think I only had like fucking 300 followers at that point, and they sent me this big case of like these bottles. I don't even know what they were called. I don't know if we were friends then, but it was like fennel and all these kind of ingredients in them that were like swung with the kind of view of it was good for gut health, but it's basically just to get you shitting. And they sent me this massive case of them, and I knew after like 6 of them I was like, no fucking way.
After 6?
I was very constipated at the time, so
after 6 of them, that's a lot. I thought you were going to say I didn't even try them.
No. Now obviously I wouldn't, but back then I would have tried everything, because I did still suffer with my IBS, constipation predominant, so that was still an issue for me. Although I had improved my symptoms as a whole, I never really understood that I could have majority of the time symptom free without constipation. I just had this label stuck to me that I had constipation for life. But yeah, no, now I know what's up, and these, I can smell them a mile off. But for anyone, like, they do sell these messages, they do sell you promises, and they're empty promises, unfortunately. But yeah, I remember the one that you tried, you sent the C9 cleanse or something. Was this the aloe vera?
Yeah, that one was one of my faves. That was really, really good. Yeah, that was bad. So you basically like fast for 9 days. And then you're like at the end of, I think it's at the end of the 9 days, or maybe it's towards the end of the 9 days, you're allowed to start slowly incorporating food. Allowed, yeah. But what you have to do before you're allowed to eat, like in the lead up to it, is to buy this aloe vera juice. I think it must have been, it was expensive at the time. I remember being like, what? I don't have this kind of money to be spending on this kind of stuff, but desperate times. So it was this thick, rotten aloe vera juice. It was absolutely septic. It came in like this big gallon.
I tried it before.
Oh, I remember, like, in order for me to do it, this is how we stream. If you have to do this, you probably shouldn't be doing it. I had to put a clothes peg on my nose to try and like drink it. And I would gag even with the nose peg. I could still taste every single bit. It was violent, absolutely violent.
Yeah, that reminds me of what people do now with apple cider vinegar. I'm like, why are you putting
my mom's obsessed with apple cider vinegar.
Oh, bless her soul. Send her my page.
There's no point. Literally no point. Yeah, my family are into the whole apple cider vinegar thing, and I'm just like, it's not going to do anything. If I have anything wrong with me, mom's like, apple cider vinegar, get that into you. Like, get that into you, you'll be better in 2 days. When I don't like, she doesn't even do it from the whole like fat loss aspect. It's more so she thinks that there's lots of health benefits.
Yeah, I actually, like, you are recipe queen. Like, you're actually recipe queen. I'm giving you that title. No one else can come get it from
Can I have that title when I haven't done anything in such a long time?
You're allowed a day off even if you're a queen, okay?
And I was 6 months off, but okay.
But no, I think yours, your reels are amazing. I even send them on to my clients, because I used to do recipes, but I have lost my love of them because lockdown, I just have some element of minor PTSD from making recipes, and I just can't do them anymore. Couple that with obviously living in Bali and I don't cook here. It's more expensive to actually buy your food and cook it than it is to eat out. But what's amazing about your recipes is you don't try healthify them all. I think this is something that people get caught up in with the relationship with food and being on track and being on the bandwagon and all that kind of stuff, is that they feel every recipe they have to healthify.
Yeah, they do. Things like fucking almond flour and all this stupid stuff. It's like, I get why you're doing it, but it's just, you'd probably be much better off having the real thing, enjoying it, and then moving on, because chances are, even if you replace XYZ with sweetener or whatever, 0 calorie, whatever, you're still going to be thinking about the original. So you may as well just kind of have the original and then move on from it and learn how to incorporate these foods and learn how to enjoy them and learn a bit of balance, so that you're not constantly searching to healthify something, you know? So there was one thing actually I bought, I remember at the very, very start of like my journey, which was 0 calorie noodles. They were grim.
What was in them?
They were grim. Get them in Holland and Barrett. They're fucking terrible. They're like worms, like slippery, slimy worms.
What's actually in them though?
I have a clue. I just bought them.
What baffles me about these things, I'm like, well, what's the actual ingredient? Like,
I have no idea.
Yeah, I suppose that's the message as well. Low calorie things tend to leave out health at the end of the day. What are you swapping it for?
Yeah, another thing that kind of like grinds my gears lately is cauliflower rice.
Oh, stop.
Cauliflower rice isn't cauliflower. It's not rice. It's just cauliflower. That's all it is.
It's just veg, hun.
It's just veg. Have your cauliflower rice if you want to, but have regular rice with it. Like, I don't understand why you're like, why? It doesn't taste good.
It's the whole thing of like, you have to deprive yourself of extra calories. You have to deprive yourself of carbohydrates as well. It's like, why do you don't understand that they, like, carbohydrates are the best energy source for your exercise, for your brain. Your brain uses energy in the form of glucose, and your thyroid hormones really, really need energy from your carbohydrate sources. So you'll run into issues with your mental health. You can experience amenorrhea. You can run into issues with your mental health, your digestion, if your metabolic rate slows down, your training, you'll have energy for life, conversations. You could just go around being a moody, hangry bitch, and nobody wants that. You don't want that. So I think it's this trend of volume. And there's nothing wrong if you're kind of aiming for a calorie deficit or fat loss is a goal for a period of time. Let me stress that, for a period of time, a planned period of time, not chronic dieting, not chronic yo-yo dieting. But at the end of the day, you can incorporate these little strategies. But I think what people do is extreme approaches is what happens. So they're like, okay, I'm dieting now. Cut all carbs. I'm not allowed to have rice. So we're going to remove those and we're going to swap for cauliflower rice, instead of maybe being like, okay, I'm going to add a little bit more extra veg on my plate and maybe reduce the portion of rice I have on my plate. I think that's like, I don't even know what one of my favorite parts of coaching is, but it's definitely up there, really showing women that they can eat more food. Would you agree?
Yeah, 100%. And that's actually, you mentioned just there a few minutes ago about carbohydrates, like even benefiting like your training and stuff like that. That's something I not even used to, but like up until probably last year, I was training fasted, and not on purpose. Like it wasn't a case of me being like, I'm going to train fasted because fat loss or anything like that. It was because I used to wake up early and I just wouldn't really just wouldn't think about it. And I'm like, I feel like I train really well when I'm, not after eating. So
running on adrenaline.
Yeah. So only last year I started like being like, you know what? Because I think my blood pressure was really low at the time.
I started giving out to it as well. That's why.
Blood pressure was really low, and I was after surgery and stuff like that. So it just wasn't great. So I was like, right, okay, something's got to change. So I tried having food beforehand, and lo and behold, the dizziness stopped. Not only that though, now I can't even imagine going training without eating, and I can see so quickly the benefits with my strength and my energy levels throughout the whole day from just eating before I train. I mean, who the fuck would have thought? Who would have thought?
Oh, no.
But that's something to pay attention to if you're someone who maybe you're not doing it for a fat loss perspective. Like I wasn't doing it for fat loss. You might just not think of it. It might be something that you're just not thinking of. So if you are someone right now who doesn't eat before they train, maybe you should try eating before you train and see how much of a difference it's going to make to your sessions, and how much better you'll feel, and how much stronger you'll feel, how much easier you'll be able to go through the day without all these highs and lows. So yeah, that's your little PSA.
Yeah, and it doesn't even need to be anything big. A lot of people are kind of like, oh, I train early, I don't want to eat a big massive meal. And then you do have to take into consideration the time that it takes to digest your food at the end of the day. You don't want to be interrupting your training session. If you still haven't digested your food, you're not going to have the blood flow from oxygen there to support your muscles. And likewise, you're going to be taking away the resources that are meant to be supporting that digestion of the food. I can't say the word digestion, like digestion. Like I literally have a business around digestion, and digestion.
You'll get there in the end. Okay, you keep
but sorry, basically it will take away from optimal digestion. So like you could literally have something as small as a piece of fruit. You could have a half a protein shake, or one of those little yogurt shakes or something. There's so many simple things you can do that can really support that goal, to make sure you're not training fasted, without having to feel completely stuffed and not actually have I won't say the energy, but you won't have the basically be in the right mind frame. You won't feel comfortable.
I think that's what I was doing before as well, because when I was eating there, I tried to do the whole oats before training thing. I tried to do that years ago, and when I did that, I always felt like so while I was training or when I went to the gym. So I think from that experience, it's like, oh no, it mustn't be for me eating before the gym, So that's how the whole not eating before the gym came about. And now I just changed. I have bagels and stuff.
Yeah. Oh, fucking hell. We spoke about bagels. Bagels give you superpower before training. Oh my God.
They do.
Like superpowers. Honestly, anytime I do a leg session, and I actually forgot about that until just now. Anytime I want to do a leg session that I've had a bagel before, I just came out of it feeling like a boss ass bitch. And I was like, where did that energy come from? And I was like, I was the bagel.
Yeah. Or crumpets. Crumpets are a good one.
I haven't tried crumpets before, but they kind of freak me out a little bit.
Oh, they're so good.
I know you love your crumpets, but I don't know. I'm just a bit like, what is it? I suppose that brings on the topic of processed foods. And there's a big, massive there's I suppose a message out there, or a narrative out there, that we shouldn't be looking at foods of things we don't know the names of the ingredients for, and we should only look at organic foods and all this kind of stuff. And we need to understand, with a good relationship with food, that the purpose of making food choices doesn't always have to be for health or for nutrition or for protein or because it's higher or lower in calories or whatever. It can actually just be for enjoyment. And this is something that we both had struggled with throughout the years, that we didn't realize was a possibility, that you can actually eat to be social. You can eat just because you want a taste of chocolate in your mouth, or because you just want to bake some cookies. But is that something that you find difficult to encourage clients to do on their journey working with you?
Yeah, so at the start, what I'll get them to do is I'll get them to like write down all the foods that they're planning on eating, right? Okay, so it kind of just gives me an idea of what their day looks like. So when I go through it, I see that, like the cauliflower rice or things like that, they'll be picking these foods that are just, red flags. I'll just go through it and there'll be red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. And that then allows me to bring up the topic of, okay, well, why are you choosing that over the alternative, or like not the alternative, but the original? Like, why are you choosing this alternative over having the original? And often it'll come down to, oh, well, it's healthier. And it's like, okay, why do you feel it's healthier? And it'll even be things like bagel slims instead of having like a regular bagel. So they're like, oh, well, it's healthier. And I'm okay, what do you mean it's healthier? It's like lower calorie. And it's like, okay, it might be lower calorie, but with the normal bagel, you're actually going to get more fiber. You're going to get, yes, more calories in it, but those more calories also bring more nutrients, and it's going to keep you fuller for longer. So that's the way I kind of like approach the conversations with clients. Or if there's, I don't know, if they're looking for ideas, I'm like, oh, well, what about like, I don't know, like a protein pudding or something, like those protein puddings, and throwing in like chocolate and fiber one and all that kind of stuff. Try and get your fiber up, your protein in, all that kind of stuff. They're like, oh yeah, but that's processed, so I can't have that. And I'm like, literally so much of my fridge is processed, but like there's nothing wrong with them being processed. Just because things are processed, like microwave rice, doesn't make it bad. It's still rice. It's just pre-cooked. That's all it is. It's pre-cooked and a couple of things in there just to keep it together. That's all it is. It's nothing that's going to deter you from reaching your goals. It's nothing that's going to create any damage within you. There's no badness to these foods, as long as you're trying to incorporate whole foods as well. It is important to obviously have whole foods where you can, but if it's an option between, okay, well, I'm going to have to cook rice from scratch, or I'm going to have express rice and I don't have the time to cook a full thing of rice, are you better off to just not have rice, or would you just have the express rice? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and also pasta is processed, but they don't seem to think that that's processed.
That's the main thing, is that you'll see all these trends about like, oh, this recipe is this and this one is really beneficial for this, and I turned these brownies into these healthy brownies and blah blah blah. It's like, one, when are you ever going to use those ingredients? You're wasting your money. Two, you're also spending so much time on this shit, and this is where the all or nothing mindset comes in, because you're like, this is going to take so much of my time, which I do not have the energy for, or I'm just deprioritizing because I've had a long day from work, or maybe I've got an appointment, or I just can't be fucked because I don't really want it that much. So bringing in convenience, which could be in the form of processed foods, is going to be more beneficial for you to meet yourself in the middle, rather than this kind of fuck a button that, because this whatever this healthiest or most nutritional or the best or the good approach is so far reach from you, the expectations on it are too high, the energy required is too high, you're not going to do anything at all. So it's about meeting yourself where you're at and taking those baby steps, but also taking a step back and looking at the bigger picture. Like, yes, maybe when you compare them side by side, nutritionally one's more beneficial than the other, but is it more beneficial if you're actually just not going to eat anything at all? You're going to skip a meal, or you're going to pick at foods, or you're going to snack at the whole kitchen press, you're going to binge eat, and you're going to make yourself feel like shit. Like, there's so many elements involved for your relationship with food, and for you being able to support yourself and kind of be having a lifestyle or habits or mindset set up to be conducive of your goals, you know. And I think that's something that people miss quite a lot, is that they don't understand that you can actually just choose convenience food sometimes. Like that's what I love about Bali. You can just pop on a delivery app and I'm like, okay, what am I in the mood for? There we go. I got the shock of my life when I went back to Europe. But even when I went back to Europe, I know when I went back to Europe, when I went went back to cooking in Portugal, I really picked convenience foods because I knew that I did not have the head for cooking. I really didn't want it because I was the source of my own problems because I was just comparing it to Bali and it wasn't Bali. But I knew in that headspace I wasn't going to be able to cook something, and I was most likely going to procrastinate on cooking bigger meals. So I really made sure to get those quick cook rice, quick cook pasta, make sure to double up on cooking chicken breasts together and loads of peppers and throwing it all in the one pot, not trying to make these extravagant dishes. And then if I wanted something that's like amazingly tasty, I could go get myself a curry or like a Thai chicken cashew nut from the Thai takeaway. I absolutely mashed that, but there you go. Chili cashew nut chicken, there we go. But yeah,
I think what people don't understand as well is that processed food is literally every piece of food that you have is processed, because even if you're buying vegetables, they're washed. That's processing. Like that literally starts as processing. But there's some element to it where is the line when it comes to processing? Like at what point is it bad? Like at what point is it negative for you? You know, like why don't they think of it that way, to be like, okay, well actually everything that's everywhere is processed. Everything. The minute it's put into a bag, it's processed. Those potatoes that I got that go in the microwave, like in that little bag, little baby potatoes, they're technically processed, but there's the only process is there is that they're in a bag. Like the bag just makes it quicker for them to cook. There's nothing actually added to those potatoes. They're just potatoes, you know? So I think that's something that people kind of fail to recognize, you know? And I'm someone who loves cooking, absolutely love cooking. I'm still going to choose the quicker cook options because ain't nobody got time to boil rice.
No. It never comes out nice. It's always like all sticky and mushy. Yeah.
Now, to be fair, express rice does taste kind of not as nice, but I use it to fry and add in soy sauce and, you know, make it all tasty and stuff like that. That's just a side note. There's no purpose to that point, but there you go.
That's okay. At the end of the day, like really assess what's going to help you support your hormones, digestion, relationship with food, fat loss goals, just weight maintenance, anything in between. But speaking of hormones, I'd like to chat to you a little about your experience with coming off the pill, because I think that's wasn't immediately. I think we started becoming friends before that because you were chatting a little about PCOS, weren't you? You were kind of looking into that for a family member, I think.
Yeah, but I think, so when did we start being friends? I think I came off the pill in like 2018.
Yeah, it would have been before COVID anyways. Like
yeah. So I remember because it was when we went to Dubai. I had just come off it then. My cycle went on and on and on when I came off the pill. I think my cycle was something like 48 days, 52 it went up to actually at one point. 52 days I was waiting for my cycle, and obviously that's not ideal. That means that you're not ovulating at the right time. It's, you know, very complicated. So I remember then being so confused, and my skin, lads, was so bad. The reason why I stopped the pill, by the way, wasn't for any like particular reason. It was more so I actually just kept forgetting to take it on time. So I was like, okay, you know what, I'm just going to stop and we'll see. I'll go back on it next month or something. You know, it wasn't meant to be this long-term thing. But once I saw how affected my cycle was from it, I was freaked out. So that kind of made me want to keep going until I got back a regular cycle. And my intention was then to obviously go back on the pill. But as the months went on and I saw that, okay, wait, this is going on for too long. I'd say it took me a good year to get it back kind of somewhat normal. And normal for me then was like, I think 33 days. So that was like still a huge improvement. Obviously, technically still not normal because it's what, like 28 or 26 to 32 is the normal range, I think, isn't it?
Yeah. So 28 plus or minus 2 days.
Yeah. So I was still outside that like normal inverted comma. But it was still a huge improvement. Now my cycle today was 28 days. So
we're actually thinking we're both on day 28 of our cycle today.
It's really fucking weird. But even when mine was delayed, I feel like yours was delayed, or if mine was early, yours was early. It was really fucking
we started overlapping then for a while there. We were going a bit distant there for a while.
But I remember saying to you, like, when's your period due? Because I can't remember when mine is due. But yeah, so it was mad. But once I came off the pill, obviously like I said, my cycle length was really, really affected and it freaked me out. But my skin, lads, was upside down. It was in a heap. like really, really bad. I do think there was other things that contributed to it as well, like stress and stuff like that, environmental factors. But I think largely it was down to just my hormones being all over the place. And my skin right now is really, really good. Like really good. I get like maybe one spot, I have like one little one here on my chin right now. And I'm
glowing.
Day 28. But my skin, other than that, is quite level most of the time. So I think that indicates as well that my hormones must be kind of happy now, I think.
And you use that as a kind of a driver to really look into your health. I suppose you were in a bit of a if it fits your macros buzz a little bit.
Yeah. Oh my God.
And you
more than a little bit,
yeah. Okay, sorry, I didn't want to offend you.
I can't get offended. It's impossible.
No, that's okay. No, she was balls deep in if it fits your macros, and I was trying to get her to eat more fiber and to have a look at nutrition.
Fiber? What's fiber?
Yeah, exactly. She was like, but I don't have issues. I don't need to. And I was like, just trust the process because it's important. And it's so easy to be like, well, I'm not as fucked up as that person, aka me. It's like, why? There's not really a need for it. It takes a lot of energy from you and kind of focus to change up things. I get it. It does. Change is difficult. But we can make that easier, obviously, if you're good at coach. But at the same time, you were just kind of like, I'm kind of okay with my where I suppose you shifted the goalpost for your relationship with food. You had come from the binge restrict side of things, shifted the goalpost to be like, okay, well now I've got calorie counting and I can eat what I want when I want, which is obviously an improvement, but at the same time you were leaving health out as well. So I suppose there is this crowd now that's very much like you have to eat you have to calorie count or you have to intuitive eat. And I think your approach to coaching is really, really good, and it aligns with mine, obviously, that it's 444. Love it. Your approach to coaching aligns with mine, where we're kind of, what does our client need and what works for them, and calorie counting is a tool that they can use for a period of time and then move to intuitive eating. I even remember trying to get you to do intuitive eating. Well, no, you came to me, you wanted to do it, and then it was so scary because you were like, no, this is just not going to work. But I think that was at the time when you didn't actually incorporate fiber and you didn't incorporate all those kind of nutritional benefits and things that we should be including as well. I suppose when it comes to clients, what criteria would you have that you'd kind of think red flag, they probably shouldn't be counting calories?
If they get anxiety because they don't have a barcode, if they can't accurately track something, that's when I'm like, okay, there's like, if they're worried about that, if they're worried about nights out, if they're worried about social occasions, if they're constantly going over like a lot or going under a lot, because then they're like, oh, well, no, if I don't go over, then I'm going to lose weight faster, that kind of thing. There's lots, like the list goes on, and it completely depends per person. There might be one that I might not have come across, but I'll talk to a new client and I'm like, oh, that sounds like that actually might be linked. I haven't come across that one, but I think that might be that. Let's test this, So it's very different for each person, but those are kind of some general ones that I look at. Or if someone is exercising to burn calories, or they're looking at just body composition all the time and they're not taking into account all the other factors, then those are other kind of things that I'd look out for. But generally what I like to do with clients, but it all depends on like how long it takes them to get to that point. If they do track at the start, I do think that it is important to have an awareness of, if your goal is fat loss, like it is important to have awareness of what calories are. Like it is, like, I mean, that there's no ifs and buts about it, but you can do so in a way where it's supporting your health as well as getting you closer towards your goals. Yes. And I think what people do is something that kind of highlights for me with clients, if they're looking at food as just calories and not as everything else like we've just been talking about, that's a red flag to me. And it's like, okay, well, what's the point in you actually like creating this awareness if you're not going to use any of this awareness when you're not tracking, So I like to do kind of like little tester periods with clients as well, and be like, okay, look, I just want to make sure that you're still feeling okay with tracking / not tracking. So let's not track this weekend and let's see how that goes. And if they panic, I'm like, okay, we really need to not track this weekend. Like if there's anything, like even it came to one of my clients a couple of weeks ago, she was using the weighing scales for her food. So like food scales, obviously to see portion size and stuff like that. And I want to move her away from tracking altogether. But I also want to move her away from weighing her food, because she brought her weighing scales on holidays, and I never told her to do that. And then, as in, I always tell my clients not to track on holidays, not to do any of those things, just to eat mindfully, like try to teach them those kind of things. So when I found out that she brought that, I was like, okay, you have like obviously this big attachment to the weighing scales. Why is that? Like the food weighing scales. Yeah. And she said, well, it's because I need to make sure that my portion sizes are okay. And it's like, okay, well, what happens if the batteries die in your weighing scales? What do you do? And she's like, oh my God, I can't even imagine like what I would do. And it's like, oh, okay. So that's why we need to try and like use this information that you're having. Like if you're weighing out like 60 grams of whatever, look at that and see what that actually looks like on your plate, because eventually you don't want to have to, like, you don't want to be using your scales all the time. Nobody wants to be using their scales all the time. You want to be able to eyeball. And if you're not looking at things from like a whole picture, what's the point? Like, what's the point in just using this electronic tool to tell you these things when your eyeballs can do the exact same thing? You know,
your body can tell you what's up as well. Like I think people think that calorie counting and intuitive eating has to be completely separate. Like my approach with clients is really, if they are calorie counting, we're working on intuitive eating in the background. You'd obviously be the same way, working on hunger and fullness. And if you're full and you have a calorie, like you're meant to hit your calories in that plate, but you're going to eat past your point of fullness and ignore that, there's absolutely no point in doing that. You're really just that's not good for your health. It's not good for your digestion. It's not good for your head. It's really teaching yourself to not trust yourself. It's teaching yourself to disregard how your body's feeling, which can lead to a lot of other difficult situations in life with relationships and work situations and stuff. It's not just about the food, but I do think it's really important that people understand that you have this inbuilt tracker in your body that is your hunger and fullness signals, and if you work on regulating those, that alongside understanding and education around calories can be really, really beneficial. Like I counted calories for, well, I probably only counted calories properly for about a year, and before that was like fucking 800 calories, 1200 calories, and then of course when I ate like 4,000 calories from pizza and takeaway, it was never tracked, you know. But that year of counting calories properly helped me understand, oh, I can actually feel satisfied after a meal. And there are elements of portion control you can continue to carry with you. So like I use the scooper of the protein to weigh out the protein, obviously, and I also use that for my oats. That's probably the only thing that I weigh now. Or when I'm kind of looking at some pasta, I would have a look at the overall pack would be 500 grams of pasta, and I'd maybe portion it out a little bit with my hands, like, okay, how many portions is in this? And then pour out a certain amount. But if there's more or there's less, and my plate we've overdone it and there's a massive bowl of pasta, I'm not just going to eat it for the sake of it. Or if I've underate, I will listen to that and I'll make sure that I'll have something else afterwards. It's really important because as well for female hormones, with the stages of our cycle, you could have a certain calorie target, and if you are at the stage of your cycle where your PMS in and just coming into your period, where your calorie requirement could be a little bit higher, you could be ignoring that, and that can lead to you binging or emotional eating. So it's really important that you take into consideration what your body's physiological needs are, because we're adaptive as human beings. 1 week you could be not doing much training, the next week you could be hitting 10,000 steps and in the gym 4 days a week. You're obviously going to have fluctuations with your hunger and fullness there, so we need to make allowances for that as well. And like I said as well, dieting and fat loss phases should be done in a phase, should be done for a period of time as well, not chronic dieting, which fucks with your head, fucks with your metabolism and everything. I actually had a new client yesterday who trained quite a lot, and the thoughts of giving her new calories, she was like, oh my God, can I have new calories? I was like, of course you can have more calories. It's this messaging that she'd received so far, that she, like the 2,000 calorie mark, we spoke about this before, that people have their fear of God in them for going over 2,000 calories. Like you wouldn't even try hit the 2,000 because of all these messages you see online with diet culture, with fitness influencers promoting 1,500 calories, 1,700 calories. And yes, that could be something you need to do if it's appropriate for your height, your weight, your energy expenditure, your age, whatever. All these factors are taken into consideration when your calories are calculated for the phase of your fat loss, etc. But you should not ever look at someone online and be like, okay, they're eating that 1700 calories, that's what I should try and mimic. And this comes into, I suppose, something that you talk about quite a lot, about full days of eating. Do you want to give your thoughts on full days of eating?
So I actually quite like full days of eating when they aren't linked to that person's calories. So I think body. Or body, yeah. So it's one of those things. I used to do them loads, like literally all the time. But as I kind of went on and, you know, seeing kind of the effects that it might have on someone, and the fact that people are really impressionable, and the things that you put up, people will copy them, like they absolutely will. As much as you tell them not to, chances are they probably will copy some element of it. And full days of eating, in my opinion, are there for inspiration and to show you how much food you can actually eat, not how little food you eat. So I think that's something that what you'll see a lot on like TikTok and things like that is really small foods, like just really small calorie targets and things like that, and how little someone can survive on the day, you know. Whereas I like to do the opposite, and I like to show how much I can eat in one day with the calories that I'm on or whatever, but I don't give the calorie target. I give the protein target because I feel like the protein target is helpful because people do struggle to get protein in. Calorie wise there's just no point because it's going to be completely different for each person. But I find when people do the full days of eating, they are like showing pictures of their body first. And it's like giving the impression that, oh, well, I look like this and I eat like this. So if you eat exactly like this, you're going to look like this too. Whereas that's not the case. But it is something that it gets a lot of bad rap. And I understand why it does if it's done in distaste. You know?
Yeah, sure, we've absolutely done that before. But I suppose at the end of the day, what this highlights is the need for individualized and personalized nutrition. And working with a coach. Like, if I had someone point me out so early on in my journey at the many, many, many mistakes I made, the many fucked up things that I tried, I could have saved myself a lot of further issues, pain, symptom severity, I suppose. Disordered eating to the max, eating disorder, like so many aspects basically of my health. My training could have been better, my relationship with myself, my body, my relationship with others, everything could have been so much better if I had someone who was professionally trained point out to me, I suppose, where my blind spots are, what I'm doing, what I'm not doing, and explain it to me as well. So I suppose this is what people don't understand. This is where I kind of have a bit of a ick towards kind of standardized plans that if they're not personalized, someone could just be like, okay, well, I'm just going to copy this, I'm just going to pick this one and then go with that. Obviously there are some that are detailed enough and you can calculate your calories from it and pick if you're in a fat loss phase and whatever, but there's still going to be some missing pieces to that puzzle for you. So if you are struggling and you feel lost, why not seek support? It really is like you're worth investing in yourself. And what we tend to think is that things need to be really, really bad to justify them getting better. And because I suppose there's a lot of free information on the internet, like both of us have a lot of free, great, amazing content, but at the end of the day, it's still not going to be tailored towards an individual and helping those. You can get so far, of course you can. Like a lot of what I do is self-taught outside of my qualifications, of course, but at the end of the day, if I had someone very early on before I went and studied and did those qualifications, I could have been in a much different space. But I suppose that's my journey.
Your journey led you to here as well. So, you know, it's something
I know.
It's not like, obviously it was quite negative, but it's not entirely negative because look at what it brought you. You know what I mean? I think
we ain't the health one for nothing.
I think it's important. Like those things do shape you as an individual. That's why it is obviously, if you did get the support from day one, I'd love to see like who's Orla now. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know. But like, I suppose for someone who doesn't want to be a nutritionist or health coach, they could have that energy and that space in their life for something completely different, you know? That's, I suppose, the difference. And I suppose I was probably a little bit stubborn. Lol.
You?
No, I'm actually not that stubborn. No, I'm not going to take that sarcasm.
That sounds like stubbornness to me, but okay.
So I suppose talking about like having extra space in your life, we are really maybe we've been forced into promoting this message by our own toxic traits, but we very much promote the fact that rest is productive. So I suppose, isn't that a really big thing that we'll see with our clients, where they'll be like, I can't take rest, I either don't have time, I feel guilty for taking rest because I'm not being productive.
Yeah, there's one client that I was dealing with before, and if she didn't train, she would automatically feel guilty. And she's like, when I train, like my food is really good. I keep forgetting I'm in video, so I don't know if you can see my inverted commas, that's what those are. When I am training, I'm eating really good or whatever, and I find it easy to stay on track. But then when I don't train, I just eat poorly or whatever. And I'm like, okay, that's obviously because your relationship with food and training is like, you have that linked, and you think that training equals good, not training equals bad, and then you're just in this kind of headspace. But another thing that I kind of came to, I was like, well, what are your hobbies outside of training? And she was like, I don't really have any. I just go out like on the weekends with my friends and stuff. And I'm like, okay, maybe you just don't have that much fulfillment that's going on outside of training. Like maybe training is where you get your fulfillment from. So if it is, that's fine. Absolutely no issue with that. But we need to find other avenues as well, so that you can explore those, and that you don't have to rely on this one thing to make you feel good. Like there's lots of other things you could do to make you feel good. So I started like trying to ask her more questions about like what she could do the weekends. She's like, well, all my friends are drinking, and so I just end up drinking with them. And I'm like, have you none of those friends who would want to go on like, I don't know, like, and I don't know, I can't think of anything. like dancing or what? I'm not a dancer, so that's why it doesn't come naturally for me to say that. You know what I mean? Is there any friends that you could take on hikes, or that you could go to the spa, or whatever it is? Find things for you that are going to bring you fulfillment and joy. And like that, like you often do like women's circles and all that kind of stuff. Like, so like these are things where people can meet new people, and that's where you can get your fulfillment from. It doesn't have to come from training. And I guarantee if you find that fulfillment somewhere else, chances are there will be no such thing as like good and bad days. Like when it comes to food and training, it will just be, you feel fulfilled, so you don't feel that need to go out and do that one thing,
No. Yeah. And when you find pleasure in other aspects of your life or other areas of your life, the weight that training has on you, like could be very much emotionally and mentally, it really lessens. And it doesn't mean that you need to be like, okay, well, I don't care about training anymore. Like today I actually wasn't really that bothered going training. I haven't trained since I did my time Friday, so say 5 days ago. I was like, okay, I have to go back to the gym today because I actually want to keep going with bringing up my fitness and all that. And then because it was so hot, I was like, I'd actually rather just lie in the sun and get a bit of a tan today. And if you had told me back in 2017, when I was doing 6 sessions a week and training was fucking life, I would have been like, oh my God, she's lost the run of herself. Like, no, I've actually just found a bit more happiness in other areas of my life. And I am really happy, and I'm still fit, and I'm still healthy, and I'm still looking after myself. But when we have this attachment that we find our fulfillment and our worth and our value in training, it loses the actual benefit from what it gives to you in your life, the value, let's say, and it becomes something that might actually take away value, because there is that guilt, there is those negative emotions that are associated with it, rather than being this activity that you engage in to support yourself, to feel good, to see endorphins. It does improve your mental health, but it's your relationship with it, or the expectation you put on it, or like I said, that value or that worth that you associate with it, that can make it a very negative part of your life. And I think that's something that when you get into fitness, it's very difficult to see outside of that world. And I suppose this is what's really important about looking at your online space and making sure that you are following other people if you are into fitness. Like we said, nothing wrong with being into fitness. I love my fitness too, but I also follow other accounts to help me expand my mind, expand my spiritual side of things, that's just purely for fucking entertainment or laughing, and I think bringing that aspect in will also improve your hormones, because you're going to be less stressed, because you're actually going to relax a little bit more. Like, I have a few clients that come to me, and I've noticed a pattern with potential endometriosis, which doesn't actually turn out to be endo. It just turns out to be extremely high inflammation and high stress, because the individual is so strung out and obviously has anxiety, maybe not eating enough food, other aspects of it, but there is this link between feeling like you can't sit still and having a dysregulated body, on having irregular hormones, and that physiological state of your body is going to make you feel worse as well. So it's really important to start to try relax, start to try and slow down, even if it's just one day a week, even if it is just, instead of going training 5 days a week, you go 4, and that day that you're switching out for your rest day, maybe watch a movie, maybe sit still, maybe go and connect with other people and do like-minded things, maybe even just switch one of your training sessions for a walk with a friend. Like there are things you can do that are still active, like you mentioned, dancing. I fucking love dancing now, but if you had told me 2 years ago I'd be doing dancing, I'd be like, what? No, absolutely not. Scarlet for me, Scarlet.
I really want to do pole dancing. Like I desperately want to do pole dancing. But there's just none in Limerick.
On it.
There's just none in Limerick.
Yeah. Someone set that up.
Yeah.
Business idea.
I think something as well you mentioned there a few minutes ago about like having a look at like your online space and stuff and seeing like what you are following. I'm obviously a coach. I love training. If I go to my Explore page, there's very little on there that's about training or, you know, like things like that. It's other interests that I have. Like if I think what everyone should do right now is go onto their Instagram and look at their Explore page and have a look at like the stuff that's creeping up. If it's like loads of fitness things or loads of things about diets and all this kind of stuff, maybe it's time for you to change the things that you're looking at, because they might not be supporting you in the way that you think they are. And you're probably looking and engaging in these things because it's like motivation or whatever, but maybe it's actually doing you more harm than good. And there's another example of somebody else I've worked with where she was comparing herself online to all these like Fitspo people or whatever that were just in like amazing shape and all this kind of stuff. And she actually doesn't enjoy training, but most of her homepage was like dumbbell workouts, like whatever workouts, all this kind of stuff. And it's like, okay, so you don't enjoy training, but this is what you're consuming all the time. Why do that if you're not actually like, are you actually only interested in these things because you think that doing those things is going to make you look like that girl? And it turns out that that's exactly what she was doing, but she didn't realize. And she'd been trying so hard to get into the gym, and it's like, wait, maybe it's just not for you. Maybe the gym isn't what you enjoy. Maybe there's other activities you could do like you enjoy, like we were just talking about dancing, stuff like that. Like there has to be something that you enjoy that's going to be beneficial for you and your body. Like, of course there is, but you constantly trying to put yourself into this picture of what you want to look like and looking at all these workouts and whatever and trying to give yourself motivation. If the motivation really isn't coming, maybe you're not that interested in what you're like. Maybe you're not actually that interested. He's
just not that into you.
He's just not that into you. But maybe you're just comparing yourself to what these people look like and you don't even realize that that's comparison as well. So
if I start with a new client and they're like, they come to me and they're like, I'm not training, I've lost my mojo, I'm blah blah blah, other things in their life obviously showing up because they have low energy or whatever. But I'd be like, okay, well, if you really don't want to go to the gym, why don't we just take a break from going to the gym? And they're like, wow, like that time.
No, can't do that. That's not what I'm coming to you for.
No, make me go. But I'm like, that time you have spent beating yourself up for not going to the gym is time you could have actually been enjoying the rest and the breakaway. And that also applies with what I said about being productive and taking rest. You could decide, I'm going to give myself a hot minute to just relax and switch off for the evening. Obviously more than a minute, maybe take an hour or two, but you could decide in that moment that you're just going to give yourself permission to release that guilt, release that inner chatter, and just let yourself rest or be or take a break. And you will actually get to enjoy that moment. Then you will actually get to de-stress. You will actually not fucking hate yourself in the process. And then you can come back to it when you have got motivation from an internal, intrinsic source rather than trying to be someone else, which is extrinsic, and it doesn't last. It's fleeting. It really fucking is. Like, I think having a deeper why for why you do the things that you do are important, and maybe you don't know what that is verbally, but you know the feeling of what something gives you. So I know when I go to my Muay Thai, it's a bit fucking torture sometimes. I won't go to it when my PCOS is flaring and my IBS is flaring, because I need to be conscious of my health and whatever. But when I'm feeling good, I will go to my Muay Thai and I feel amazing afterwards. I really feel amazing. But if you told me to go into a CrossFit class, which is the same kind of high intensity, I would be like, absolutely fucking not. No way, no thanks. Rather never exercise again.
Yeah.
But I think that's what's important, is like, what does exercise mean to you? What does it give you? And for me, resistance training has lost the enjoyment that it used to give me, because I'm trying these other things. But the purpose of me doing my resistance training is support my PCOS. Okay, it's really important for my PCOS, and it's good for the glutes and being strong for my Muay Thai and my pole and whatever else. Okay, so there is still that element of purpose in it. That's still element of joy in it sometimes, but sometimes it can be asked, because when I do Muay Thai and stuff, it's like a new skill, and I've been doing resistance training for years, so it just feels a bit mundane sometimes. But I think by switching it up and doing different things, even if you don't enjoy certain things such as the gym or whatever, if you understand your deeper reasoning for it and it gives you purpose, and it maybe gives you connection because you go to a gym class with your friends or whatever, there is reasoning behind it. So instead of focusing on the negatives or the reason you don't want to do it, if, like I said, take that break if you need to, but have a look at that deeper meaning, search that a little bit deeper, so it's not so surface level. Because if it's surface level and if it's extrinsic, the minute you're tired, you're like, nah, fuck that, not for me.
Let's also, like, the thing is, people, let's call a spade, people start the gym because they want to look different. Like, that, nobody starts because they want to get strong. Like, no, like, I didn't start because I wanted to get strong. I wanted to look different. That's how I started, like, literally all those years ago. But once I changed my mindset from being like, I want to look different, to I actually just really want to get fucking strong. Like, I just want to be able to do things when I'm old. I don't want, like, that's my purpose for training now. My purpose for training now isn't to grow glutes. It's not to be shredded. It's not to do any of these things, because those things will happen, like, regardless. They'll happen naturally, like, if you're enjoying your training, because you're going to enjoy showing up. You're going to enjoy picking up heavy things and putting them back down. Like, you are, if you're enjoying what you're doing and you're changing your purpose for it, it becomes so much more enjoyable. Like that woman that I was talking about, she was training because she wanted to look different. If you train because you actually enjoy training and because you enjoy the feeling of feeling strong, and like you enjoy being like, oh fuck yeah, I'm lifting more than that guy over there. If like, those things will come once you enjoy them. But if you're doing it just for that external purpose, like you were saying, it's kind of pointless.
Yeah, I know. I actually miss that element of, I think being in hot countries, it's a lot harder to gain muscle. For me anyways, my strength is way lower. Like when I was home in Ireland there, I fucking deadlifts were going up so much quicker, and I was like, oh, like, this is the one part of living in a hot country that just doesn't work for me. But
your appetite is probably affected in the hot country as well, though.
Yeah, it is. I really have to be strategic in getting calories in through smoothies and stuff like that. And croissants today. I had a lovely almond croissant straight after.
Not a big fan. Not a croissant kind of gal.
No, okay. I'm not a croissant gal. I'm an almond croissant gal if it has the icing in the middle. Okay, very specific, very specific place that I'll get it from as well. Won't say that I'll bring one home for you, but hopefully one day you come visit me.
Hey, Bali. I'm an eclair kind of gal. Chocolate eclair.
Chocolate eclair. We love a bit of cream. Okay, so I have a question for you.
Oh fuck.
I know. I hate it as well, but I'm gonna. You didn't write this in the notes. Well, I just want to ask this to all my podcast guests, because I think it's really valuable to pass on wisdom. But what advice, maybe 3 pieces of advice, maybe more, maybe less, would you give to your younger self? All the time you need.
He's not good for you, honey. He's not good for you. So that's the first one. Second piece of advice is focus on you before focusing on other people, because you know, if you focus on you, you're going to be happy first, and then you can make other people happy from doing that. Piece of advice number 3, all of those diets that you tried, just don't try them. You're absolutely perfect the way you are. So you don't need to change.
Yeah, and also if you're feeling the need to be on diets, you're doing it wrong. Because you shouldn't need to be dieting picking a specific type of diet to improve your health or for fat loss or whatever. That's the whole point of what we do is relationship with food, that there is no need for an extreme approach. There is room for it all to be inclusive of proteins, fats, fiber, enjoyment, socializing, not feeling deprived. There's room for it all. You just have to learn the tools and be a bit more strategic. But I loved what sorry.
I have another piece of advice.
Oh, go on.
Start saving when you're 18. Start saving when you're 18.
No, I don't like that advice. I'm going to edit that out.
Start saving when you're 18. You'll save yourself a lot of fucking hassle.
No, I do agree with saving when you're young. That's what I was able to start my business because I had savings there. But if you're saying save for a mortgage when you're 18, I'm going to say,
I didn't say save for a mortgage. I just said save.
No. I can just tell that it's what you're saying.
I just said save.
Okay.
Also, I have more pieces of advice that I keep thinking.
Wisdom queen. Okay, go for it.
If you are interested in learning more about whatever topic that you want to learn about, invest in a coach. Don't try to do it yourself. Trust somebody else. Put your life in somebody else's hands, obviously in the right hands. Take the risk. Do it.
Oh yeah.
Whatever it is you're afraid of right now, do it within reason.
Yeah, no, that was the biggest thing. Like the health one wouldn't be 2 years in business if it wasn't for you, because you told me to take a risk, and I was like, but I'm so fucking scared. And you're like, just do it. And I was like, but, and you were like, no, start now. And I was like, but I need to get excited. You're like, just start, throw yourself in, take the risk, see what happens. And ever since then, I have been taking risks. Well, I've always been a bit of a risk taker, to be honest, but I probably was getting sucked into the world of safety and security, and there's nothing wrong with that if that's what your values align with. But for me, that's not what my values aligned with. I like freedom, I like taking risks, adventure, and I really live by life is fucking short. You're not guaranteed next week, so why not take a risk? We love
exactly.
Yeah.
If you don't take that risk, you'll never know. And if you have a backup plan, you shouldn't have a backup plan. Just do it without the backup plan. But if you don't have a backup plan, you have to make it work. You have to make it work if you don't have a backup.
Yeah.
You know, obviously, if you've got kids or whatever, it's not the same thing. But if your situation allows, don't have a backup.
Go for it. But think about it first.
There's my 10 pieces of advice.
Love it. That's amazing. You are the most knowledgeable guest I've ever had.
So wise. So wise beyond my years.
Much knowledge.
Yeah.
But thank you so much for coming on the podcast, Saz. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram at sazc_coaching. And you can find my website, which is sazcpt.ie. The link is in my bio, and you can apply for my solo series if you want instant access to training programs for $19.99 a month.
Amazing.
There you go.
And your podcast?
I don't advertise that right now because I got nothing on.
Well, no, there's so much wisdom in it. Like, you just came up with 10 points of wisdom. Obviously, there's going to be more in that podcast.
Yeah. Okay, so I have a podcast called Sit Down with Saz. You can find it on Spotify or on iTunes. But I haven't recorded in a very long time, but I will get back into it. But there is I think 9 or 10 episodes there. So happy listening to that as well.
Amazing. I was such a baby when I recorded that. Was that 2 years ago?
Oh God, I can't remember. I literally can't even remember the last. Actually, I want to check the last date that I recorded something.
I think I even said some things that I probably take back today. That's the whole thing about coaching and going.
Everything changes.
Yeah, you learn more, and that's the point about taking risks and starting before you're not ready. Because I wanted to wait until I had all the knowledge and I knew everything, but I still don't know everything, and I'm still
never going to know everything.
That's
the last time I posted was the 3rd of March, which I actually thought was much longer, older than that. Yeah. There's 13 episodes. And when I recorded with you, it was the 22nd of April, 2021.
Wow. Was I in Portugal then?
I have no idea.
I must have been in Portugal then. Oh, I was just gone. I remember I was so stressed, or I had just gone, and I literally remember not being able to speak. God love me. But anyways, we'll wrap it up here. We won't talk shit. We'll talk shit afterwards. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. I'm very much appreciated for sharing your wisdom. And if anyone valued from this podcast, I would really, really appreciate a subscribe, a comment in the review section, and just to share it on with anyone that you think would get value from this. give Saz some love. Go give her a follow on Instagram and go have a listen to her podcast. There's so much knowledge and information on that. She very much aligns with what I do and working on improving your relationship with food, being in the middle of not identifying with diet culture, but also not being so balls deep, I suppose, in body positivity that you can't change yourself. You can change yourself from a place of love and prioritizing your health at the end of the day. So yeah, thank you so much, Saz, and I will chat to you soon.
Thanks.
Bye.